in the UK and it's 20 years since the Royal Rumble 2000 Madison Square Garden. I was telling you the other day that like WWF came on network TV here on Channel 4 in January 2000. So you and Triple H in the street fight, it's kind of a lot of people's first memory as wrestling fans. Now it's 20 years later. How do you look back on that match and specifically that part of the program with Triple H?
Yeah, well, that was I loved working with Triple H, and not just because he's in charge and I might want to work there again. He's my son's boss too, so but that's not why I'm saying it. I mean, I did love working with Triple H, and he had a way of bringing out the best in people. I think that's an underrated quality that you can't actually see. You have to feel. And I was really hurting, and my knees were really bad, and so he was working around my weaknesses, and we came up with a match that played to my strengths with a guy who could play to my strengths better than anybody. I think one of the indelible moments was me suplexing Triple H on a pallet, and a shard of wood went into Hunter's calf, and he had blood streaming down his leg for the entirety of the match, but he kept going, and it was a great showing by him, brought the best out in me, and no question it was one of the best matches I've ever been in. And
how important was Madison Square Garden as the venue? Because it just feels different when you're there.
It does feel different. I remember it felt like a subdued reaction. Even last night, I was free to admit that Taz had a bigger response coming out for his match than I did for mine. But the reaction during the course of the match was phenomenal. And there's something special, not only about Madison Square Garden as the mecca of wrestling in the United States, but the fact that it was the building that I grew up going to and taking trains to and hiking to, where I saw Snuka come off the top of the cell. So it was really a big deal for me.
Last question. AEW is now obviously on TV Wednesday nights head-to-head with NXT. The ratings have kind of been, some have won, NXT have won some, AEW have won some. How do you think AEW is doing so far? You've been part of the wars the last time. They're not quite the same this time, but how do you think they're doing so far? They're a few months in, they've had some TV, they've had a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, they've got an amazing talent roster, but I think with the exception of, say 8 to 10 guys, you have a lot of guys who haven't worked full-time for a promotion, and they haven't had the chance to make mistakes in a smaller venue. One of the things I liked about the For All Mankind DVD was that you literally got to see me growing. They'd show a promo from 1989, and it clearly wasn't quite there. In 1990, you could see the growth, and I'm sure you will see the growth of the AEW character as they go. But in the meantime, you get to see some of the mistakes being made on live television. So some of the guys have grown up, yearning after the "This is awesome" chant, but haven't had the experience of being in angles that need to draw money. I think for guys of my era, there was definitely a very real sense that if the angle wasn't successful, you didn't draw at the houses, and there was no other ancillary means of income. And I mean, I'm not down on the guys, but I think you're seeing some inexperience when it comes to shooting angles and performing for the camera. And so guys are out there, and it's an admirable trait that they want to have the best match they possibly can, but every guy wanting to have the best match at every venue doesn't necessarily lead to the best promote. That's just my opinion. So I think someone needs to rein some of these guys in. Like Gerald Briscoe told me when I got to WWE, he says, "We know you like to do a lot of these things. There may come a time when we ask you to do that, but until then, we're going to ask you not to." And that really improved my longevity. So I think NXT's advantage is that their guys have been trained to work for the camera. And I think they have an advantage of having more seasoned stars and now a dedicated team writing for them. But in the end, it comes down to who has the ability to tell better long-term stories and get the audience engaged.
And does it surprise you? I mean, we've got two of their top names is Cody and Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho seems to always be able to reinvent himself, even at this stage of his career. And Cody has managed to become this fiery babyface, and he's almost taken some of the lineage of his dad and some of that goodwill as well. Is how do you kind of rate them, and are you surprised that they are the focal points of the company, or did you always kind of see it that way for them?
Yeah, I always thought they would be among the focal points. I mean, Cody just knocked that one promo out of the park. I thought they rushed the match. I think maybe they're not showing the patience they need to. I would say that Moxley and Kenny Omega shouldn't have had their first match in a wild anything goes environment. But I think these are mistakes made out of wanting to give people the absolute best product they can. But I do feel like there needs to be somebody reining in some of that enthusiasm.
Mick Foley to AEW. No, I'm kidding. Mick, thanks very much.
Is that the last thing I do? That's... I bury AEW?
You heard it here first.